We're talking about the prime equity clause, not a signing bonus, not a performance incentive, not some, if you hit 20 touchdowns, we'll cut you another check language. Nope. This is something we've never really seen stitched into the fabric of an NFL rookie contract before. A clause that allegedly ties Shedeur Sanders' future earnings directly to equity in KFC. Yeah, you heard me. Fried chicken equity. On the surface, it almost sounds like satire, like some TikTok skit where the punchline is, "Forget cash, just give me buckets of chicken." But when you sit with it, when you really peel back the layers, you realize this isn't comedy. It's chess. Big generational chess.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
Because Shedeur isn't just playing football. He's playing ownership. And this move, it could change the way athletes do business forever. Here's what the prime equity clause allegedly says in spirit. Every ounce of influence Shedeur has, every commercial, every highlight reel, every whisper of the Sanders brand name that adds shine to KFC's global identity. It isn't just a rental. It's an investment. If he lifts the brand, he gets lifted with it. If KFC wins, Shedeur wins too. That's not endorsement. That's partnership. It's the difference between being the face of a brand for 2 years and owning a slice of that brand for the rest of your life. And you want to know why this is so groundbreaking? Because for decades, athletes have been boxed into the same old formula. Here's a paycheck. Now smile for camera. Shedeur is saying, nah, don't pay me to smile. Pay me to sit at the table. That's prime energy right there. Let's take a step back and remember where this mindset comes from. Because Shedeur didn't wake up one morning and invent this. This is the Sanders DNA at work. Deion Sanders' prime time wasn't just an athlete. He was a disruptor. He broke rules about how athletes were supposed to act. He celebrated. He danced. He leaned into the entertainment side of the game. People hated it at first, but guess what? The NFL became more marketable because of it. Now, Shedeur is carrying that same disruptive torch. Only instead of gold chains and touchdown dances, he's flexing through his contracts. And what better way to make a splash than attaching yourself to something as iconic and as global as KFC? Because let's be real, KFC isn't just fried chicken. It's culture. It's nostalgia. It's the bucket your parents brought home on a Friday night. It's the logo you can spot from a mile away. It's a worldwide language. Now imagine being tied into that equity. Imagine your wealth compounding every single time someone grabs a crispy thigh or orders a bucket for family. That's not just money. That's permanence. Here's why this is revolutionary for NFL contracts. Traditionally, athletes are disposable in the business sense. You're valuable when you're fast, strong, and healthy. The second you slow down, the money stops. But this prime equity clause flips that. It's not dependent on yardage or wins. It's tied to influence, to brand lift, to cultural presence. And that's something Shedeur will have whether he throws 30 touchdowns a year or 3. Think about it. The Sanders name is already a brand. Add Shedeur's youth, his style, his connection to Gen Z and Gen Alpha audiences, his social media savvy, and you got an athlete who can move product just by existing in the spotlight. That's leverage. And he's cashing it in early. Now, of course, the traditionalists are already mad. You can hear them grumbling from their recliners right now. Focus on football. Stop chasing gimmicks. He hasn't even proven himself yet. And you know what? That's exactly what people said about every single athlete who dared to blur the line between sports and business. When Michael Jordan pushed for his own shoe line, people laughed. A rookie with his own sneaker? Who does he think he is? Now, Air Jordans are a billion-dollar industry. When LeBron James built Sprinkle Entertainment while still playing, critics said he was distracted. Now, he's a billionaire and still dropping 30 points on the Lakers. When Serena Williams started investing in startups, people rolled their eyes. Now, her venture fund is changing industries. This is what disruption looks like in its early stages. Messy, misunderstood, mocked. But give it 10 years, and it'll be the standard. Here's the genius of Shedeur's alleged KFC tie-in. Fried chicken doesn't retire. Fried chicken doesn't blow out a knee. Fried chicken doesn't age out a league. It just keeps selling. Globally. Every single day. Which means Shedeur's money keeps moving, even when he's not. That's generational wealth. That's the kind of wealth that puts your grandkids through college. That's the kind of wealth that makes sure your name isn't just in the record books, but in the business pages too. And honestly, that's what makes this so much bigger than a football story. This is about changing the narrative of what it means to be an athlete in 2024 and beyond. Let's play this out. If Shedeur proves this model works, what's stopping the next wave of athletes from demanding the same thing? A rookie receiver could ask for equity in an energy drink company. A linebacker might tie himself to a sports tech startup. A kicker could get a slice of a sneaker company. Suddenly, contracts aren't just numbers on a sheet. They're investment portfolios. And the NFL, as much as it tries to resist, will have to adapt. Because once players see ownership as a possibility, nobody's going to be satisfied with being just an employee. They'll want a stake in the empire they help promote. And honestly, why shouldn't they? Now let's talk controversy, because you know this isn't landing smoothly with everyone. Some fans are already side-eyeing the move. They want their quarterback to eat, sleep, and breathe football. They don't want business headlines. They don't want fried chicken metaphors. They want wins. But here's the thing. These two realities aren't mutually exclusive. Shedeur can chase greatness on the field and secure generational wealth off it. In fact, the confidence and vision it takes to negotiate a deal like this, that's the same confidence and vision you want in your quarterback. This isn't distraction. This is discipline. This is ambition in two lanes at once. And if he succeeds in both, he won't just be a quarterback. He'll be a blueprint. Let's not sugarcoat it. This is bigger than football. If athletes start moving like this, demanding equity, rewriting contracts, forcing brands to view them as partners instead of pawns, it changes the entire sports economy. Owners won't just be the billionaires in suits. Players will start building their own ownership stakes while they're still on the field. And that's a scary thought for the old guard, because for decades, athletes have been the product. Now they're starting to own the product. That's not a small shift. That's an earthquake. And it's happening right in front of us, with Shedeur Sanders, with a fried chicken clause that, on paper, sounds almost silly, but in reality, it's one of the boldest, most forward-thinking contract moves in NFL history. This isn't just a deal. It's a declaration. A declaration that Shedeur Sanders isn't waiting until his playing days are over to become a mogul. He's starting now. And whether you're skeptical, impressed, or somewhere in between, you can't deny one thing. The game has changed. So now let me ask you, do you think Shedeur Sanders' prime equity clause is the future of NFL contracts? Or is it just a flashy experiment that'll fade out? Is this genius? Or is this premature? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear your take. And don't forget to subscribe, because this channel isn't just about who wins or loses on Sunday. It's about the drama, the innovation, and the bold moves that change sports forever. And Shedeur Sanders? He didn't just sign a contract. He signed the next era of athlete power. Let's start with why this even matters. The NFL, for decades, has been the most rigid professional sports league when it comes to player control. The contracts? Owner-friendly. The endorsements? Controlled. The lifespans of careers? Brutal. Average career length? 3 years. That's it. 3 years, and for most guys, it's done. So what happens? Most players walk away with a little pile of money that disappears by their mid-30s. Then what? They scramble. They coach. They get analyst gigs if they're lucky. Some just fade. Shedeur Sanders is looking at that cycle and saying, not me, not my family, not my legacy. And this is where the prime equity clause comes in like a lightning bolt. Instead of just taking guaranteed cash and waiting for KFC to call him later with some ad campaign, he's building the brand into his contract. He's not just promoting their buckets. He's tying his financial future to their buckets. That means if the brand grows, he grows. If the bucket sells, his bag swells. That's not a paycheck. That's ownership. And ownership, that's forever. Think about it. How many athletes have you seen make millions, only to lose it all when the check stopped? Too many to count. But how many do you see who have equity, ownership, stakes in companies that will outlast their playing days? That list is short, and it's usually reserved for veterans who've already built a resume, not rookies stepping onto the field for the first time. That's why this is so seismic. Shedeur saying, "Why wait until I'm retired to think like an owner? I'm going to start my career that way." And if this gamble pays off, we're talking about a blueprint that every young star will try to copy. Now let's break down the optics, because you can't underestimate how carefully this was chosen. KFC isn't random. It's not niche. It's not some fledgling startup trying to make noise. It's a global titan. KFC has roots so deep, you'll find their buckets in countries that don't even watch American football. And that's the genius here. Most athletes think domestically when they sign deals, shoes, cars, American-based endorsements. But Shedeur is already thinking globally. He's attaching his name to a product with reach in Asia, Europe, Africa. He's not just aiming for NFL fans. He's aiming for everybody who eats. That's not marketing. That's empire building. But here's the delicious irony. Critics will try to frame this as a distraction. Oh, he's worried about chicken, not football. He hasn't even won a game yet, and he's chasing money. You know what that really is? Fear. Because when athletes stop just being athletes, when they start stepping into ownership, the power dynamics shift. Suddenly, owners don't feel so untouchable anymore. Suddenly, billion-dollar corporations can't just cut a check and control the player. They have to give them a seat at the table. And that's what scares people. Because Shedeur isn't asking politely. He's demanding equity on the front end. That's like walking into a party and not just asking for a drink, but grabbing the AUX cord and DJing the whole night. And let's not pretend this isn't rooted in family legacy. Deion Sanders is the prototype. Prime time didn't just play ball. He played the media. He played fashion. He played image. He played the culture. He taught his kids that football isn't the whole show. It's just a ticket inside. The real show is what you build around it. So Shedeur is taking that DNA and modernizing it. Deion had the chains, the sunglasses, the swagger. Shedeur has the contract clauses, the brand tie-ins, the global vision. Different generations, same energy. Prime time turned football into entertainment. Shedeur is turning football into equity. Now, let's zoom out and picture the ripple effect. Imagine if this becomes the new normal. A rookie wide receiver walks in and negotiates equity in a tech startup. A star running back demands shares in a fitness app instead of just an endorsement. A linebacker ties himself to a gaming company and profits every time a controller sells. Suddenly, the NFL isn't just contracts and bonuses, it's portfolios. Suddenly, the locker room isn't just talking about blitz packages. It's talking about dividends and stock splits. And the line between athlete and mogul? Gone. Completely erased. That's the kind of disruption Shedeur could be sparking right now. But let's talk legacy for a second, because this is what makes it truly fascinating. If Shedeur succeeds, if this clause actually brings him wealth and influence beyond football, then his story becomes bigger than touchdowns. He'll be remembered as a quarterback who changed the way players thought about their contracts. And that's where the Sanders family's magic really lies. They don't just play the game, they rewrite it. Deion rewrote what swagger looked like in sports. He made confidence into currency. Shedeur is rewriting what compensation looks like in sports. He's making ownership into the baseline, not the end goal. That's how dynasties are built, not just through wins, but through vision. Now let's get messy, because you know there's controversy here. The traditionalists hate this. They want their football clean. They want quarterbacks to eat film, not fried chicken stock options. They see this as selling out, as being greedy, as putting business before the game. But here's the flip side. Isn't football already a business? Isn't the NFL already a billion-dollar empire that chews up talent and spits it out when it's done? The only difference now is that Shedeur isn't letting himself be chewed up. He's biting back. And that right there is what makes this move so powerful. Because instead of being just another cog in the NFL machine, he's setting himself up as a co-owner in a machine of his own. Now, Let's stretch this out and imagine the cultural ripple effects. Fans don't just watch athletes anymore. They buy into their lifestyles. They wear their shoes. They stream their documentaries. They eat at the restaurants they endorse. Athletes aren't just athletes. They're walking ecosystems of influence. So when Shedeur's influence is tied into KFC, what happens? Suddenly, fans aren't just cheering for him on Sundays. They're seeing his presence when they grab dinner. That's constant visibility. That's brand reinforcement on a whole new level. And if that visibility is tied equity, that's a money printer that doesn't stop running. But here's my favorite part. This move isn't just bold, it's poetic. Because for years, athletes were told, play first, worry about the business later. Now Shedeur is flipping it. Handle business while you play. That way, when the playing stops, the business is already bigger than the game. That's not arrogance. That's foresight. That's survival. And if this clause works the way it's designed to, the Sanders name won't just be remembered in highlight reels. It'll be remembered in boardrooms. So let's put this in plain English. The prime equity clause is more than a rumor. It's a symbol that the power dynamic in sports is shifting, that athletes are waking up to the fact they're not just talent. They're brands, they're moguls, they're owners in the making. And Shedeur Sanders? He's not waiting 10 years to play catch-up. He's starting now. Here's the thing. Equity is power. Period. Cash fades. Endorsements expire. Performance incentives are fickle. But equity? Equity lives. It grows. It matures. It creates something that keeps paying long after the cleats are hung up. And that's exactly why this clause is so revolutionary. Shedeur Sanders didn't just grab a piece of pie. He grabbed the oven. He made sure that if KFC keeps cooking, he keeps eating. Now, think about the narrative that's been shoved down athletes' throats for decades. Shut up and play. Stick to the game. Focus on the playbook. But look at the actual system. The owners don't just own the teams. They often own everything around the teams. They own real estate. They own media deals. They own entire regional economies. And the players? They're told to settle for a check. That's why Shedeur's clause is dangerous to the system. Because it says, no, I'm not just your employee. I'm your partner. You don't just get my arm on Sunday. You get my brand, and if you profit off it, I profit too. That's power, and that scares people. Let's be dramatic for a second and picture this. Imagine Shedeur walking into the contract meeting. Agents on one side, team lawyers on the other. The usual script is ready. Base salary, guaranteed money, performance bonuses. And then Shedeur, or maybe his camp, slides in his bombshell, equity in KFC. Can you imagine the looks in that room? Shock, confusion, maybe even laughter. But the fact that it made it into a contract at all, that means someone caved. Someone realized this kid has enough leverage, enough swagger, and enough future potential to justify giving him what no rookie has asked for before. That's not just negotiation. That's generational leverage. Now, let's talk cultural reach. Because a lot of people don't understand how big KFC really is. We're not talking about a regional burger chain. We're talking about one of the biggest fast food empires on the planet. In Asia, KFC is everywhere. In Africa, KFC is everywhere. In Europe, Latin America, the Middle East, KFC is global currency. So when Shedeur ties himself to that, he's not just locking in a domestic fan base. He's making himself a household name in places that don't even watch football. Picture a kid in Tokyo biting into a crispy wing, seeing Shedeur's face on the poster, and learning his name before ever learning what the Cleveland Browns are. That's global branding. That's how moguls are made. But of course, with innovation comes backlash. The purists hate this. They're already on sports talk shows saying things like, he hasn't proven himself yet. What's he doing worrying about chicken when he hasn't even thrown an NFL touchdown? This is why rookies flame out, they get distracted. But let's flip that script. Why is it a problem when a player secures long-term wealth, but not a problem when billion-dollar corporations secure it off the backs of players every single season? Why is it focused on football when Shedeur demands equity, but it's good business when the NFL inks billion-dollar broadcast deals before a single game is played? That's the double standard. And Shedeur's move exposes it. Here's the part one love. He's doing this while inactive, while technically not playing, while sitting behind veterans. Most rookies in that position would just keep quiet, take their check, wait for their chance. But Shedeur is using this exact moment to build his empire. He's saying, look, whether I'm on the field or not, my value doesn't disappear. My influence doesn't go on pause. My brand doesn't sit on the bench. That's the brilliance. He's monetizing moments most players waste. And when the day comes that he does take the field, he'll already have a business infrastructure bigger than some veterans build in their entire careers. Now, let's have some fun with the optics, because you know this is going to spill into marketing. The taglines practically write themselves. Buckets on the field, buckets off it. Shedeur Sanders, finger licking ready. Stay crispy, stay ready. It's cheeky, it's over the top, and it's effective, because every time people hear KFC, they'll think Shedeur. Every time they hear Shedeur, they'll think KFC. That synergy money can't buy, unless you're smart enough to negotiate it into your contract. But let's zoom out again, because this isn't just about Shedeur. This is about what comes next. The NFL doesn't like disruption. It likes control. It likes predictability. But if Shedeur's move works, if it pays off, other players will demand the same. And once players demand equity instead of endorsements, the balance of power shifts forever. Suddenly, athletes aren't just employees. They're shareholders. They're owners. They're moguls in cleats. And once that happens, the entire sports landscape changes. The old way of shut up and play gets thrown in the trash, replaced by play, profit, and partner. And Shedeur Sanders? He'll go down as the pioneer who lit the fuse. Think about legacy for a second. Deion Sanders gave us swagger. He gave us prime time. He gave us the image of a player who could dominate both football and baseball, who could back up every ounce of trash talk with performance. Shedeur Sanders is now writing his own chapter. And it's not about being just a quarterback. It's about being a quarterback who's also a businessman, a mogul, a visionary. He's not waiting to retire, to start thinking about the big picture. He's building it from day one. That's not just a career move, that's a legacy move. Now ask yourself this. Why should athletes settle for being billboards? Why should they accept being walking commercials when they can be actual partners in the companies they're promoting? That's the heart of this prime equity clause. That's the lesson future athletes are going to study. It's not about fried chicken. It's about fried expectations. So here's where we land. The prime equity clause isn't just a clause. It's a crack in the system. It's a signal flare for every athlete coming up. You don't have to wait. You don't have to settle. You don't have to just be talent. You can be ownership. And Shedeur Sanders? He might just be the first rookie to prove it. Now I'll throw it to you. Is this genius or premature? Is Shedeur changing the game forever? Or is this too flashy for a rookie still proving himself? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear what side you're on. And don't forget to subscribe, because this channel isn't just about who wins on Sunday. It's about the drama, the disruption, and the daring moves that reshape sports culture from the inside out. And Shedeur's prime equity clause? That's not just a deal. That's a revolution. Crispy, golden, and unstoppable.